This is my, I think, 10th time trying to record this video. So we're just going to make it happen. Because you got to do that. That's what you got to do. Hey there, Tyler here with the Kingdoms trading card game, and thanks for clicking on this video. In this video, I'm going to be giving the top 10 sacreds that are currently in the game of Kingdoms. Now, if my audio cuts in and out, I apologize. My microphone just acts a little weird sometimes. And if there's any noise in the background, it is my two dogs, our two dogs, I should say, having a wrestling match as if they're in the WWE on their bed. Now, in this video, before I do the top 10, I'm going to cover two sacreds real quick that are not in the top 10 because they are on the ban list, and that is Downtown Pub and the Library. If these were not on the ban list, they would easily be top 1, 2, 3, somewhere up there. Downtown Pub immediately has your opponent down a little bit of Magicka. The Library allows you to draw 10 cards. That's a lot of cards. Now, there are a lot of card draw spells, effects, and abilities in the game of Kingdoms, but to draw 10 cards, that's pretty crazy. I do think a successful hunt. If you play Kulas, you like that card. Okay, so coming in at number 10, and we'll work our way up, and before I talk about number 1, I'll give a couple honorable mentions. But number 10, and some of this is speculative. I do want to preface this list also with this. This list is based on how much gameplay I have seen, which kingdoms are currently considered meta in the game, and near the bottom of the list, it's some speculation of sacreds that I already think are very good. And I'll give some projections of where I think they could rise or fall on the list once I'm done with the whole list in its entirety. So coming in at number 10, I have Olding Walls, and I was choosing between that and Golden Shrine because I'm not sure which kingdom is going to be better, Athlan or Flexel. But I do think Flexel is going to be better because I want Tanis to have some of the best sacreds in the game. And so for the kingdom of Flexel, which was made by Tanis from a lore perspective, located on Olding Island, again from a lore perspective. And here is Flexel's flag right here. Its sacred has some really good effects on it, allowing you to draw extra cards, but I think what really sets it apart is the fact that it cannot be attacked if you have a Flexel battle card with Forge on the field. This effect is very similar to what I consider to be the number 1 sacred in the game, and why it is at number 1 on the list. And so I think this card comes in easily at number 10, though I think Golden Shrine has a really good chance of being good because of the card draw it gives you, having the extra hand, and helping cards be cheaper. At number 9, I have Kulas Village. Kulas, when it came out and set 2, immediately rose to the top, and it was fluttering between number 1 or number 2 as the best deck that you could currently play with. Now with Kulas Village coming out, adding the 3rd sacred to the village of, or the kingdom of Kulas, the Village of Kulas sacred card has 1900 health, which is a lot of health, and Kulas has a lot of small battle cards that it's able to pump out, and some spells and abilities and effects to kind of make them stronger. And I think having a sacred that kind of helps build that, I think that just helps Kulas rise to the top even more so. And so right now I have it at number 9 because I haven't seen it used, and I would be curious to see if it really would be in the meta deck of Kulas or not. But that's why I'm putting it at number 9, because Kulas is always really good, and I really think this helps bolster it a little bit more, giving it some extra firepower. At number 8, I have the Central Stronghold of Silvermoor. Now this is good for a lot of reasons. One, Silvermoor has one really poopy sacred called the Armor of Tanis. I remember playing a 4-player game of Kingdoms, and I told one of my friends that was there, hey, you should put this card as your 3rd sacred. He did, and it was terrible. I wasn't thinking. We allowed him to switch it out. It was a good laugh. Central Stronghold of Silvermoor, I think, is quickly going to rise to the top, or near the top, as one of the best sacreds in the game. I think it definitely is going to overcome Tanis' Dwelling Place, because I do think Silvermoor is a better kingdom than Estercrest. We just haven't seen Estercrest and Silvermoor truly duke it out to see which kingdom is the better of the two. But now that Flexel is in, there's more to be discovered. But the Central Stronghold of Silvermoor really plays on the bleed ability of Silvermoor cards, and the fact that it has the same effect as Olding Island or as the Olding Walls, I think really helps with the fact that you know, this card cannot be attacked, which is sometimes an issue for kingdom specific sacreds, as they have this great effect or this great ability, but people are just able to destroy them and totally ignore the battle cards that are out in the field. And so this at least gives Silvermore a fighting chance to have a really good sacred out on the field. For number 7, I have Trumbledore Tree. Now I'm a little bit biased with this because I do like the Kingdom of Furbish. It was one of the first kingdoms to come out in the game in set 1 for the Spirit of Marith. However, I do think this sacred is really good. Now it has significantly less health than the other 2 sacreds that Furbish has, but whenever I have seen the sacred in gameplay, it has performed extremely well, and I just think Furbish in some way, some form, still has the potential to be really, really good. And I do think right now I would put them over Silvermore because they have the ability to deal with a couple things that Silvermore might not be able to. And I just love that Trumbledore Tree is able to grow in its health because you're always going to use a lot of spells, and it also has the ability to make your Furbish battle cards have a lot more attacking power, which Marith Kingdoms especially need. For number 6, now this might not belong at number 6 on the list, but I am a little bit biased towards this card. I think it's really cool. It's a staple sacred that comes out in every starter deck, and it also came out with a new art version in set 3, and that is Schwall Waterfall. Schwall Waterfall has 2,000 health, and it benefits each spirit with its major weakness in some way, shape, or form. It gives Tanis battle cards extra attack, Borum Kingdoms extra health, and it helps Marith cards cost 1 less magicka. And so it's just kind of a good, you know, you have 5 sacreds that you put in your sacred deck, and your opponent gets to choose 1, and you choose the other 2. I think it helps just be a good buffer. If someone chooses that for one of your other sacreds to use in the game, you're not going to be too disappointed because you have a lot of health there, and it's going to give you a little bit of a benefit, and that is why I have it at number 6 on the list. For number 5, I have the Sacred Marketplace. Now, funnily enough, when set 1 came out, I had a big tournament, and no one liked Marketplace. No one liked being able to look at an extra card and having to put it in your graveyard. However, it was quite interesting as the game developed and as people were figuring out the best way to play and figuring out what resources were important in what moment. Marketplace quickly became a Sacred Phase 1 card for a lot of people because it gave them the ability to really dig in through their deck and find what cards that they really needed. And there were a lot of battle cards or sacreds or spells that really used the graveyard heavily, and so they didn't mind throwing some cards in there. And so it was really cool seeing Marketplace actually come back up, and that's why I would put it at number 5. And at 1400 health, it's a decent amount of health. You can get a couple turns off of it and maybe dig into your deck just enough to get the cards that you need as you get launched into Phase 2. At number 4, I have Tanis's Dwelling Place. Now, Tanis's Dwelling Place is a huge pain in the butt when you're playing against it because it brings your health down, and it helps Tanis's Esther Crest battle cards cost a little bit less. And the other thing that helps this card be so good is the fact that Esther Crest has the ability defensive. So if a battle card has defensive, you have to attack that card before you can even attack any other battle card or your opponent's sacred. And so this card, bringing the attack down, helping cards cost less, and Esther Crest already having the ability defensive, I really think it put Tanis's Dwelling Place at number 4 on the list. And why I think Esther Crest, we actually had a tournament one time where Esther Crest performed very, very well, actually. It came in number 3. Number 1 and number 2 in the tournament were both Linford decks, but number 3 was Esther Crest, and it performed really well with some really good cheeky strategies, and it heavily used the sacred. At number 3, I have Tribal Wagons. Now, this is due in part to Cludace quickly rising to the top to probably be the number 2 deck that you could possibly play with, and it's the fact that you would put it in Phase 1, essentially a much better marketplace, a much better marketplace, and you could immediately look for the key cards that you needed to essentially win. And I saw this when someone made a really good Cludace deck. They put it Phase 1, they searched out the cards they needed, and then they were able to just completely smash in Phase 2. And actually, they would put for their Phase 2 card what I put at number 1 on this list. At number 2, I have 2 that I'm going back and forth, but they both are for the Kingdom of Linford, and those cards are called the Dark Forest and Forward Tower. Now, both of these cards are a little bit similar in the fact that you can decline or reduce health from them to play battle cards, or they help cards cost a little bit less. In my opinion, though, I do think Forward Tower is a little bit better of a card just because of the health that it has, and I do think the effect is just a smidge better, and I really do like the artwork for that card. I was really excited when it came out, and even from a lore perspective, it just is a really mighty tower that the Kingdom of Linford has that serves as kind of like a beacon to see what exactly is going on in the Dark Forest, which is pretty cool. But that's why I have it at number 2, and also for the fact that Linford is considered the best kingdom currently, and still in the game, even with the release of 9 kingdoms and 4 villages, and soon to be 4 more villages. Of course, though, we have not seen gameplay with the other 3 kingdoms yet, and we haven't seen them duke it out, so that is to be discovered. Now, before I give my number 1 sacred, I do want to cover 2 honorable mentions, and that is Lori's Monument and Southern Outpost. Now, Lori's Monument is a sacred specifically for the village of Lori, which came out in set 2.5. I don't know how good a deck would be if it was really relying on the Lori village and this sacred in particular. However, I do think if you were able to sneak it out, I do think it could catch someone off guard and deliver a lot of firepower. And then for Southern Outpost, you know, Winterton is a sacred that I think has a lot of untapped potential. I've experimented with a lot of different builds for it, and it has performed really well because it has the cheeky ability to just completely ignore all cards on the field and just deliver direct attack damage or just direct damage to your opponent's sacred. And I think with this sacred for Winterton, I really think it could help deliver some unique strategies and help Winterton become just a little bit better. I do think Winterton, if you had to rank the kingdoms that are currently in the game, I do think Winterton could find its place near the top of the list rather than the bottom. And for number 1 on the list, I have the card Skylight Fountain. Now, when Skylight Fountain first came out and people were just looking at the numbers on the cards, you saw a sacred that had 1,000 health, and you're like, well, this isn't any good. But people quickly figured out that this was a really good sacred because of the fact that it could not be attacked if you had a battle card on the field. And it quickly became the go-to sacred phase 3 battle card for every single deck. Everyone would put Skylight Fountain in their choice of 5 sacreds, and they would always choose it to put it in their phase 3. And if you were ever playing against someone that had Skylight Fountain as one of their non-chosen sacreds, you would definitely not choose it, and you would just choose a different sacred because you wouldn't want to deal with Skylight Fountain. So that is my top 10. If I had to guess, though, where some sacreds would rise, where some sacreds would rise or fall, I think Skylight Fountain actually would have the chance of falling down, especially with the release of Central Stronghold of Silvermoor and Olding Walls. I do think Trumbledore Tree could fall down as well as Marketplace, especially with Golden Shrine and Kulas Village. And so I think some of the Kingdom Sacreds could actually rise to the top, which it's supposed to be that way anyways, where the Kingdom-specific Sacreds are super, super good. But it's also good that there are some neutral Sacreds out there that everyone wants to use. And so that's why I think the top 10, if I were to do this a year from now, get a lot of gameplay under my belt and see how the Kingdoms perform with these different Sacreds and with the new villages and stuff, I think the list would look a little bit differently. I do want to end this video with a Bible talk because my faith in Jesus Christ is something that is very important to me, and I want to offer you this encouragement. You know, sometimes people can raise really good arguments against Christianity, and I don't blame them. They can bring up inconsistencies that they find in the Bible or in the way that people live their life. And as someone that is logic oriented, that being myself, I like to have solutions and answers to things. You know, we believe in a God that has created this whole world, that we believe in Jesus, the Son of God, that he died on the cross for our sins, that he lived in a perfect life. You know, there's a lot of things that are in that are just very otherworldly. They are, you know, the logical brain can't fully comprehend that, and hence why people would say Christianity is crazy. And sometimes that can rock your faith because you can hear someone put together a really good argument that can really just kind of leave you wondering, do I believe all of this? Do I think it to be true? And so I just want to encourage you to just have faith. As someone that likes logical answers, it can be uncomfortable for me to simply have the answer of like, I just believe. But I think that is part of what being a Christian is I just believe it to be true. And so if you're ever talking to someone that doesn't believe in Jesus and they're saying, how could you believe such a thing? Or someone's really questioning you, like, do you really believe that? I think you can just say, I do. I do believe it, and it is okay that you don't have the answer to everything. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to keep in touch with the channel. I would be curious to see what sacreds do you think should be in the top 10, whatever time of the day that you're watching this, whether it be in the morning, evening, or night. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Until next time.